Lindsay and Job.
Oh,
They have said hi to you.
I know they had to watch this morning. Thank you very much for being part and parcel of this broadcast. I'm also joined by Kamau. Wakamau, how are you doing, sir? Good morning. And welcome to Lookuptv.
Thank you.
Happy to have you around. Fantastic. So let's begin like this. And I would like us to begin with two issues that are essentially interlinked, Justin. The Jubilee Party politics that now essentially have spiraled into the conditions for the bipartisan talks or negotiations. And I would like to begin from this perspective. If you listen to that address by one retired, President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, he said, we know that there are people within the government, he didn't mention names, who are enjoying this sort of disorganization that we're seeing within the Jubilee Party. But we're here to put it in order. I've sat here as a media, as a journalist. If you tell me to tell you the one time that either DP, Rigathi Gachagua, or one William Ruto has come out and mentioned their route on Jubilee, I will not say. But then there's this conviction that indeed somebody within the government is to blame for the disorganization that we're seeing within the Jubilee Party. Could you agree with him?
I agree with him because he also did the same when he was in power. He killed political parties. He had the handshake, you know. That was his MO, the way he operated. And people learned from him. You know, even Ruto, being the fact that they were together in politics and in the same party, they had their own way of doing things. So he killed political parties then. If he enticed them with money, we don't know. But we remember democracy was under threat during his reign. And I dare say that during the campaigns, Azimio has no moral authority to lecture us about killing of political parties and democracy. The party I ran in, Azimio paid our party leader as little as 10,000, very little money, to kill the party. You remember that time we had a fallout with the party leader? That is when he started preaching Azimio message. So the idea is that he was given money to kill democracy so that at least we were branded a project from the word go the moment he started speaking about Azimio.
Yes.
And I was very bitter because I was running around the country, Kamau, trying to sell an agenda. Yeah, this man has been sold out. So Azimio should know that when you're in power, and it even goes to other political parties, including Kenya Kwanza now, because one day they'll be out of power. And how they're operating, someone else will do it the same.
Yes.
So I think that he is right because he knows what he was doing is what that is being done now.
There is a caveat to that. I'll be coming back to you. Seem to agree that indeed that somebody is interfering. Come on. Let me also get your opening sentiments to this conversation then, because we're going to talk about the Jubilee Party politics. Then after that, we can start talking about the bipartisan negotiations now, since it's becoming a negotiation point as well. That if you don't not stop interfering with Jubilee Party politics, we are out of the negotiations. Do you agree with the president, that retired President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, that indeed the government, that is Kenya Kwanza, is interfering with the Jubilee Party politics?
Thank you again. And I will start by explaining what you've just said about the issue of not knowing who is interfering with the party called Jubilee. And what I would just point out and maybe disagree or agree with my sister here is that we all don't need to dwell on so many other things. Like you said off the camera, you said the fidelity to the law is so important. And going back to the history, you do what you're supposed to do, not because I did, because you know what the law says. The Jubilee affairs is being interfered with. Reasons we cannot explain it here because we don't know what the backstage is or what is happening in there. But if we stick,
is it true that we can explain it here?
We can explain it here to say we don't know more reason why this Jubilee Party is so important right now, vis-a-vis other parties like Wiper, ODM, Muungano Party, Agano Party. We don't know why the interest with Jubilee is that paramount to this government. And now, it is through the government systems and institutions like ORPP that are being used to fight it. We saw a backdated letter that was given to Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni, by the head of ORPP, saying that they had taken in the names of Kanini Kega and the company to be the heads of Jubilee, or to be the managers of that party.
Yes.
So that way, there's no way you can write a letter and not give the letter to the person and say, I wrote you a letter. Because when you write me a letter, you give it to me so that I can sign as received on the certain date, which was done, and they say they wrote it on 19th, but it was received after the NDC was done.
Yes.
So when you look at it, back and forth, a common mwananchi won't know what is going on, and they will start the same practice in dealing with other people, because we need to establish an element of honesty. It doesn't matter, my sister, whether I was honest yesterday towards you, so you cannot say revenge on me, but you practice what you know. And that is what we're saying. Fidelity to the cause of our nation is paramount.
Yes. Justin, let me also have you weigh in on this. Now you tend to agree that indeed it's okay that there's a rout on the Jubilee Party. Why just the Jubilee Party, like Wakamau is asking? Why not the rest of the parties, if indeed the end game, just like DP Gashago was saying, is to paint the country yellow ahead of 2027? He's on record saying that.
One thing I said is that I didn't say it is right. What I said is that it has been the mode of operation in this country about political parties.
Yes.
If you remember, in 2013 we had URP and TNA. And I like doing politics by reminding Kenyans the past, which always influences the future.
Yes.
2013 we had URP and TNA. 2017 we had Jubilee. And I remember people like the late Kalembe and Dile were very bitter because they were promised so much. Kalembe gave in their his tip party there, and they were never compensated. And that is why even when Kalembe was dying, the time he was being buried,
yes,
I never saw anyone from Jubilee Party attend his burial. Actually, it became now a NASA affair. They forgot about him. What am I trying to say? This is the time for Kenyans to start demanding more of their political parties in terms of hygiene, politics of hygiene, you know? Because when you look at right now, when I see the president, the former, the entire president,
yes.
And don't get me wrong, I have been a member of TNA, so I've been his follower.
Right.
I was a member of Jubilee.
Just want to take you on a tiny little breather.
Yes.
I want to come back on that. Somebody tells me that we want to get everything right this morning in terms of a sound. Something is getting creaking in a sound. We do not want that to continue this morning. Once we come back, we're going to pick that particular conversation. But then the question is going to be, if indeed we do agree that they did it, the question I'm going to put to Justine is, had the Azimio coalition won the election, could have we been seeing the same disorganization in Jubilee that we are witnessing right now? And if indeed this is orchestrated by the government, like members of the Azimio coalition are saying, is it right for us to have this conversation this morning? Then is it right as well then for the registrar of political parties to go home? Because if indeed Justina agrees that it is going on and it's not justified like she's saying, then the Azimio coalition are right to demand the resignation of one Miss Anna Devitu. Once we come back right here on The Morning Drift, the hashtag is The Morning Drift at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. I am still with Kamau, Wakamau and Justina, Wamae. Good morning.
Beautiful, wonderful, glorious. We are having the show that we share entitled Shepherd Voice.
I'm waiting for you to get me to Kenya. That's what I'm waiting
for you.
God is the source of every blessings that flow into your life.
And I know that God is going to bless you and to do a new thing.
Pray, 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 pray.
Hi, and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your #1 show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home. When the food is ready.
You want to serve them?
Dinner is served. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
Michezo na wachezaji, matukio na matokeo uwanjani. Tumejifunga kibwebwe kukuletea mbwembwe, si mazungumzo ya kusisimua. Ndiyo maana safu ya spoti ipo hapa kwa ajili yako. ZFC! Nami hapa nahodha Robert Chacha, si suisui, na kuandalia kipindi bomba cha safu ya spoti kila siku ya Jumamosi kuanzia saa 7:30 ndani ya runinga nambari 1 ya michezo Lookuptv.
It's all about trying out fresh meals. As you know, your health comes first. Experience a tasty and sweet aroma in your kitchen today. It's not just about cooking, but also having fun, interesting conversations, keeping it professional, and not forgetting refreshing moments.
Oh, let me tell you, mine is gonna be
The Cook-Off with Alex Karani, Saturdays at 6 p.m.
Hey darling, are we still on for a coffee date?
I'm waiting for you to come and pick me up.
I should be able to pick you in a few.
It's a coffee yogurt date?
It's not just a yogurt. It's royal coffee yogurt.
Flow with the sweet taste of thick and smooth Royal Fresh coffee yogurt. Royal Fresh, the royal taste of freshness.
All right, welcome back. We have sorted that issue. Thank you very much for being part and parcel of our broadcast this morning. Justina, let me just pick your sentiments then. And you were talking about it is not justified, but that's the mode of operation of political parties in this country, which therefore makes me ask you the next question. Then somebody has to be at fault for whatever is going on in the Jubilee Party.
Not really. Remember, Kenya Kwanza, most of the people who are in UDA now were investors in Jubilee Party. Of course, they were hurt the way they were thrown out. They had put in their blood, sweat and tears. Similarly, I was telling listeners that I have been a follower of Uhuru Kenyatta, TNA. I was in Jubilee Party. I used to feel very important in Mavoko constituency, that is in Machakos County, as a member of Jubilee. I used to work under Urembo na Uhuru. But you know now, when it came to the election period, I paid my political parties fees for nominations. They never conducted nominations, and I was never refunded my money. What am I saying? Even internally, political parties need to start cleaning up themselves first before blaming the Register of Political Parties. I would like to stand with the Register of Political Parties because I think she gave her advice. And she has always said that this is my stand regarding Jubilee. She always uses the constitution of a political party And if, Simba, you've met anyone trying to register a political party, they'll tell you the hardest part is the constitution bit and nomination rules, because you can be told to refine like almost 10 times. She's very thorough in her work. So probably there's this insinuation that probably the Kenya Kwanza is using her, or because they are a sitting party. Then we are going to be tempted to say that also Jubilee in government, Jubilee administration was using her. I mean, look at, there's a time Kalonzo, when he had the ODM, then he took it away from Raila.
Yes.
Those are issues of political parties. So it is not right what is happening in this country. But again, how are we committed to our political parties? Do you even know the ideology of our political parties that you're supporting? Do we know the philosophy behind political parties? It is incumbent. Actually, I would like this government and opposition, because they're the ones in parliament who appropriate funds. They need to add ORPP money for sensitization, for strengthening political parties, for Kenyans to know what is my role in a political party. Many people are saying during the LDC that you see someone, they're saying he's representing Wamae. That is someone who is always in Githurai or Kibera. So those are not even the real people who came there listening on the ground. So you may think that your party is very important to you, or you love your party, but your party is not genuine about you. I'm asking people in Jubilee right now, what if they are told that due to other information or information from above, Raila, Ruto, Uhuru, Rigathi have greeted hands? Then who is going to be left with the egg on their face? It is the followers of the party, because they are going around trying to justify about the political party, yet they don't know whether their leaders are genuine about the whole thing.
Yes. Justin, let me just jump in on that particular point. Are you analyzing this issue based on the fact that you sort of do not want to take into account that even the leader right now, that is one Ruto, was actually a Jubilee Party member just before the election, and the split between one, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and Ruto was in somewhat unceremonial. So if we take into account of how close the election was, that indeed the victory could go either way, are we going to look back at that and then blame this on the government? Because indeed, they've made themselves clear that for us to actually have our way, not just in the country, but in the National House, we got to pull in more of the Jubilee Party members to our side. Because we do know, it is actually public information, the majority of the Jubilee Party members can move either way, because they used to be part of Ruto's administration.
What I'm trying to tell Kenyans is that don't be sentimental about political parties. Those leaders at the top will sit down and have a discussion.
Yes.
Actually, the people who are suffering down here are us, the ordinary Kenyans, who are having this discussion, who are feeling like the country is going to be destabilized because of a political party. These people were all together at one point in their political journey.
Yes.
Ruto was in ODM, Raila was in ODM, Uhuru came in. All of them have a history together. So nothing will stop those people from having a conversation behind the scenes and agreeing this is the direction. How sure are we as citizens that they're bringing all this confusion, but there's something happening behind the scenes? Handshake happened. Everyone was shocked. We did not expect it, but it happened. So I want citizens, ordinary citizens, to start questioning even political parties, you know, because there's so much, when I look at it, my reading of all this, there's so much that is hidden behind it. We don't know. Maybe they're having a conversation, laughing at us. And I remember Issa Kassan, the former IEBC chairman, wrote a book, and he said, Kenyans, you need to realize, to politicians, this is a game. These people will sit back, have a conversation, and agree to take a certain direction.
Yes. Kamau, Wakamau, what conversation could be happening in the background? Because the conversation that could be happening in the background has already been presented to us. And this is it. That indeed, we want the government of the day, that is Kenya Kwanza, to get out of the affairs of the Jubilee Party, which we do know is an Azimio coalition party. That is the only thing that is being presented to us.
Thank you again. If we pick the debate from, or I pick the debate from where my sister has left, there's a lot that is happening. My sister is saying the common mwananchi should realize these guys are doing a game over here, and they are talking. Now, she sits as a leader who knows what happens. This government, and I'll shoot it straight and say, they are trying to take over Jubilee. They have a nostalgic feel of what Jubilee is, okay? And if Jubilee goes, some of many other things will happen wrong.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
But the reason why I'm putting it this, Eugene Wamalwa has said this. There is an orchestration of killing the firstborns in Kenya like it was in the biblical days. If Jubilee Party dies, any other party will die. And what they are trying to do is to kill democracy and multipartyism in this country. The point to note is this, that the coming up of Uhuru Kenyatta, anytime he comes out, even if attends a church service, a burial, a wedding, it is interpreted politically. But these people are telling this guy, don't come back to the stage. But he said, you guys, I was in my retirement, but you went to my farm, took up my things, you talked bad about my family and things like that. But now, I've got a fundamental human right to participate in whatever thing I want. And now, this is a house that is called Jubilee, that I participated in building. And the members who are being called, that some of them live in Githurai or somewhere in Homabay, participated in something we call NDC. And they said, and actually I was there, they said, we want you to continue as our party leader. So that is given. If there are people who said yes to it, then as the Constitution speculates, that should be given to him. Number two, she has mentioned about learning from the history. And I'm going to put it very straight to this nation, that there are some things we do wrong. And that's why I started by saying that fidelity to what the cause you do, that demonstrates that you're truthful to yourself and there's some element of honest in you. Even if yesterday you were dishonest with me, I don't have a right to be dishonest to you today. It is my practice to be honest. Why do I say that? When you look at the history, more to it in the biblical times, when you read in the book of, I think 1 King 21, there was a gentleman his name was Naboth. He had a very, very, very nice vineyard, which was just next to the king's palace. And I think the king was who? It was Ahab. And the wife of Ahab was Jezebel. And this guy looked at the vineyard and coveted that vineyard of Naboth. And he said, I can give you whatever money you want so that you can give me this vineyard. Or I can give you a better vineyard somewhere else so that I can take what you have. But Naboth said, this is my inheritance from my fathers, so I'm not going to sell it to anyone. But when the king went back to the house, the wife asked, why you seemed like you're not happy? He said, I was talking to Naboth to give so that we can do an exchange of his vineyard, but he has refused. Do you know what Queen Jezebel did? Told this guy, why are you unhappy? Take your bread and eat, but give me your signature ring. And called in a party and told the men that you accuse Naboth that he has disrespected the king, so he should be stoned. That is what happened. And let me tell you, at that moment when Naboth died and his vineyard was taken by the king Ahab through Jezebel, it changed the course of history. And the death that came to Jezebel was through that was taken up by the dogs and eaten up. The blood flow. What I'm trying to say is this: we draw our leadership from so many other sets all over the world and through the history. If this party called Jubilee goes, many other things will go wrong in this country. So what am I saying? Any government in power must check its covetousness of other things and must stick to the law and fidelity to the law and to the spirit of it, and say, you did me that yesterday. I cannot revenge on myself because I am a better than the rule that was yesterday. So I'm talking to my sister to say this. Let's not go to many other things of what I was done yesterday. If your element is not honesty, and my yesterday was I coveted towards you, Nini, you have the obligation as the government, as an administration, to be truthful, as they say, truthful men, and to be honest to the people of this country going forward.
Pretty much. Justin, let's ask this question. I'm going to put it plain and simple because that's what majority of the Azimio Coalition members are saying. That right now, as it stands, you can't come and stand in front of us and say that Kanini Kega and Sabina Chege are members of the Azimio coalition. In fact, they are downright members of the Kenya Kwanza government. So, when we present that idea or that demand to the registrar of political parties, she has seen exactly what has gone on, that these are members within our coalition who are in full support of the party politics of the government in place. They should be out. Like, she should have rubber stamped that immediately they tabled those recommendations to her. They are angry. So they're asking, can't you see? Let's begin from there. Do you believe? Are you going to tell Kenyans that indeed Kanini Kiage and Sabina Kiage are still members of the Azimio coalition?
And for purposes of this conversation, I want Kenyans to realize that I'm neither in Azimio or Kenya Kwanza. I represent people who are called Inatuhusu. Inatuhusu, we are not affiliated to any of them. So my contribution is from outside looking in.
Yes.
What am I going to say? Kanini Kiage and Sabina Kiage, we are told that the National Executive Council or a committee are the ones that endorse them. I might not be having the details about the Jubilee Party constitution, but if NEC has endorsed them, I don't see why the Register of Political Parties should not do that. So it is for them to tell us, between NDC and the NEC, who are supposed to endorse. You see, that is the conversation. And I'm not trying to be on the ORPP side, but one thing I know, she deals with what the constitution says. There are some parties, people here, it's not even a must that the Secretary General in a party is the one who has a voice. The other parties, it's the chairman. So what does the constitution of Jubilee say? We don't want to be told from the TV perspective. They should tell us, according to this chapter, this, the NEC is larger or is bigger than the NDC, or the NDC is bigger than the NEC. So I think, in as much as Kanini Kiage and Sabina Kiage are seen at the Kenya Kwanza side, they are failing on one end from the Political Parties Act. You cannot be supporting the ideology of another political party.
Pretty much. Just, and I'm sorry to jump in there. You're going to continue with that thought. Even when you say who is bigger between the NEC and NDC, then that points us to another area, that the political parties resolution mechanism is not essentially working for the Jubilee Party right now. So when we represent it to you, you should make a pronouncement. And she hasn't. That's what they're saying. Can't you see? We feel the government is interfering. So a political parties mechanism is not going to happen right here. Give us, settle this dispute. So you should be the final in this say, help us. And you're not doing that.
Simba, if she helps them, she'll be meddling with their affairs. But so that we need...
It's within the law. They're telling her, act within the law. Use your powers.
But the law, what is the law? It is, first you start with the internal dispute mechanism.
Yes, which is
not
working.
What does the constitution say?
Which is not working.
So, you know, by Kenyans expecting her to say, fine, no, Sabina is not there, or Sabina is there, they're trying to make her make a decision.
Do you believe that Sabina Kiage and Kanini Kiage are within the Azimio coalition? Just answer that, just
Yes.
Do you believe?
That whether they're in
Azimio. Within the Azimio coalition.
Of course, they're members of Jubilee Party.
Are they
the last
in
I checked.
Are they in
You know,
the
what
Azimio
you're expecting
coalition?
me to say here,
Yes.
I want to look from the hard aspects of, are they members of Jubilee Party? Yes. But emotionally, or from what we see them as the Kenya Kwanza. And I agree with Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes.
I challenged Sabina and Kanini Kiage to do what I did when I felt Jubilee and that other party were not serving me. I opened the door quietly and I left. So I feel, as a person who believes in party politics and party guidelines, if they feel Jubilee is not working for them, they should open the door and leave. However, the ORPP, I feel she's being thrown under the bus. I feel Kenyans have this issue of mistrust with institutions in this country. So I want Kenyans to start questioning. We want to see the real thing. Is it the NDC that is bigger than the NEC, or the NEC is bigger than the NDC? The moment we understand the constitution of Jubilee, we are going to be having the right conversation. However, ODM, right now, the deputy governor of Siaya is complaining that Raila Amolo Odinga is meddling. Raila Amolo Odinga is the one who wants to throw him under the bus. Where is the democracy that Azimio is asking? We want people to come to have this conversation with clean hands, not trying to say that we want to stop meddling with democracy, but at the same time you're the one who's meddling. As soon as and as late as 2022, speaking about Naboth, Azimio killed the political party that I was in
by giving little money to a party leader who had no spine.
Do we need to repeat
Wait,
that?
I need to repeat because
Yes.
the issue of Naboth is about one person was in power and they felt they're very important, they coveted the other person. So if you're accusing Kenya Kwanza for coveting the other person's party, Azimio did the same.
Yes.
So in as much as you're trying to say that even if yesterday's past behaviors should not influence today's behaviors,
yes,
I want Kenyans to start questioning leaders. Are you in a political party because of the ideology, because of the philosophy, or you're there to eat, to get money for your own stomach? But I believe Kanini Kega and Sabina should leave Jubilee peacefully.
Yes.
If they are the reasons why there's so much collusion.
Pretty much. Come on, Wakamau. Let's do this. And we're going for break in 2 minutes. But you're going to come back again and weigh in on this point. And there's something that Justina has touched on about how Raila Amolo Odinga now is essentially putting the CIA, that is a deputy governor, under the bus. Question is going to be, is that not within the party dispute resolution mechanism? And we do know that parties do have their own constitutions on how they discipline party members. And number two, just quick responses before you come back and expound on it. If indeed it is in the national domain right now, that I can sit here and actually say that Kanini Kega and Sabina Chege are within the Jubilee or the Azimio coalition, why then couldn't the registrar party say, out of all the names that you've presented, I sign against the name for one, Kanini Kega and Sabina Chege. The rest of it, let's deliberate on it. Quickly, come back on a break and then do this as well.
There are two things.
Yes.
We are talking about national politics. The CIA politics, my sister, is within the ODM's stipulated regulations.
Yes.
That is their own, in their internal mechanism to deal with. Whether there is democracy or not, it is not our issue because it is within the ODM manifesto and the stipulated constitution.
Yes.
That is number one. Number two, we, the members of Jubilee, have not joined Kenya Kwanza. So if the ORPP office says that Kanini Kega and Sabina Chege are the leaders in Jubilee, who gave them the mandate to go and participate in Kenya Kwanza? So if they affiliate with Kenya Kwanza affairs, they deem to be the members of what? Of Jubilee, because the constitution is clear. And we need to get these things so clear. If you want to go, like my sister has said, and I support her, if you want to go to Kenya Kwanza, please go alone. If you have been escorted by your supporters, the members of your party, go with them and present and sign a document to say, I have joined Kenya Kwanza administration or coalition as a person or as a party. But that one,
yes,
if that document by the registrar of political party is correct and within the law, what criteria was it done for them to participate in Kenya Kwanza administration's affairs, like we saw when they were called as Kenya Kwanza Parliamentary Group?
Come on. I want to stop you there now. We're going to break. Once we come back, we're going to get the sentiments of that Azimio coalition meeting yesterday that was led by one Raila Amolo Odinga and the other top officials within that coalition. And then come back and do notes around it. Because now the conversation goes from the Jubilee Party politics to the bipartisan negotiations that majority of Kenyans are waiting to see if indeed we can find solutions to what the opposition think is ailing the country. Online at Lookuptv, across all your social media platforms, I am at Kiage Simba.
We as Novena United Circle are a society that is able to provide a platform for business startups by providing financial aid to members and creating a platform to accumulate their savings. We look for small business entrepreneurs who are starting a business venture and provide the best opportunity to expand our business niche and turn it into something big. For more information, call us on 0768 757 956 or WhatsApp us on 0734 832 430. Novena United Circle. Tuungane pamoja.
Karibu mtazamaji kwenye kipindi cha jamii na itikadi.
Kaini kitako tuna mengi.
Mapenzi yanapoanza watu huitana bebi na majina mengine matamu, lakini baadaye penzi linapogeuka na kuwa shubiri,
mtu anafikia kwenda kumtafuta mke mwingine.
Itakuwaje?
Yule wa kwake nyumbani labda hajamridhisha.
Ni sawa ama vipi Malkia?
Dadangu, wanaume ni kama maembe.
Huyu mwanamume atakuja abadiliki.
Mwanaume mwenye wanawake wengi hata katika uchumba, kwenye ndoa ataendelea. Mtu na tabia yake hawachi. Ile umbo la kike likishaanza, kila kitu kishaanza kuwa mahali pake.
Ningependa kukuona.
Sijaenda mahali ambapo mimi nilisikia mtu ati huyu alikuwa shujaa, alikufa katika mstari wa mbele wa ndoa. Sijawahi sikia mimi.
A man, a symbol of strength, power, and leadership.
What does it take for a man to meet society expectations of provision and leadership?
Lazima uwe mtu wa bidii, lazima ukija kuwa lazima uwe ni provider. Wewe ndio unatoa kila kitu.
In our weekly episode of Born a Man.
Kusurvive kwa shule ilikuwa ni noma. Yeah, getting something to eat, but especially in my last 2 years ilikuwa ngumu sana.
Moving from State House Road to Kamau Ndani, where they came back to be hosted.
We embark on telling stories of what it takes to become a man in today's society, like it has never been told before.
I know men, we are cowards. Because tunaambiwa watu kufa kimwanaume. Kufa kimwanaume, that's nonsense.
This is the life of a man.
All right. Welcome back. The conversation continues online. The hashtag is the morning drift. I'm still with Justina, Wamae, and Kamau, Wakamau weighing in on the issues that are getting Kenyans talking this morning. Just before we run into the bipartisan negotiations, I want them to read the mood and the sentiments of the Azimio coalition leaders yesterday when they made fresh demands. And it looks as if the Azimio coalition now has a negotiation power, because they do know that the bipartisan talks were given 60 days. And that clock by day is counting. Now they say, should they want those negotiations to continue, then one Anna Deritu has to resign. And that is essentially after 6 days. So next week, at a time like this, the Azimio coalition expects that she will make a statement that I'm essentially out of office. Let's read in. Come talk about it.
Few hours after the Azimio on Kenya Bipartisan Committee suspended talks with the government, the Azimio coalition leadership on Wednesday convened at the Kalonzo Musyoka Command Center in Karen, Nairobi for an urgent meeting to deliberate on the issues surrounding the talks that has not yielded fruit since its beginning.
We had a meeting here of the Azimio La Umoja One Kenya Coalition Summit. We deliberated on a number of pertinent issues.
The Azimio leaders accusing the Kenya Kwanza administration of ignoring all its demands during the talks.
Kenya Kwanza has no clear direction on whether the talks should proceed or not. Deliberately, they have no clear direction from Mr. William Ruto on how to proceed. 3, Kenya Kwanza sees the talks as a process of managing the political situation, calming down the political temperatures, and continue with business as usual.
The Azimio leaders accuse the government of taking part in the wrangles within the Jubilee Party as they took swipe at the registrar of political parties under Deritu.
The destabilization of the Jubilee Party is a do-or-die agenda sponsored by the highest level of Kenya Kwanza leadership, whose aim is to ensure Kenya Kwanza obtains a super majority in parliament and amends the constitution, removes presidential term limits, abolishes devolution, and removes the independence of constitutional commissions and place them as part of the presidency. The Registrar of Political Parties, Mrs. Anne Deritu, must leave office in view of clear manifestations that she has been co-opted into partisan and illegal schemes by Kenya Kwanza to cripple instead of protecting political parties.
The Azimio leaders have issued 7 days ultimatum to the Kenya Kwanza administration to guarantee them the inclusion of all their demands in the bipartisan talks, failure to which the coalition will announce its next course of action on Tuesday.
Our delegation therefore came to the decision that if the interim measures cannot be guaranteed, there would be no need to move into substantive issues. The framework agreement that set up the talks provides for a 7-day suspension of the talks in the event of a stalemate. And our delegation proceeded to invoke this provision. If at the end of the 7 days we will not be able to resume the talks will be considered to have collapsed.
The leaders also accused the government of intimidating and arresting its supporters.
And today, Gaucho, as we speak, was arrested after he made a statement at the Jubilee NDC. From yesterday, he's been in custody. As we live here, we want to follow up to ensure he's released today. Maina Njenga, just because he came out to support Raila Odinga, he went all the way to Njambini. They tried to arrest him, and from yesterday, they have arrested him. As we speak, he's in Nakuru today trying to get back his freedom.
The Azimio politicians will once again meet on Tuesday, where they will announce their next course of action concerning the bipartisan talks. Reporting for Lookuptv from Nairobi, my name is Shadrach Kareria.
Pretty much. Now that is essentially what they feel. And I've also been doing notes on the side. And Justin, I know you've also been doing notes on it, and this is what they're saying, that they've ignored all demands during the talks. There's no clear direction on how to proceed within those negotiations, and they've read a continued move or a sustained move to destabilize the Jubilee Party, gain supermajority in parliament so that it's easier for them to change the constitution and derail devolution. And the last one they're saying, we do not understand why majority of our supporters are getting arrested. They're calling it supporter intimidation. From where they sit, if the government then does not give them their demands within the next 7 days, they will not go back to the talks, and according to the framework that defines the basis of those negotiations, it will be done and dusted.
First, I'd like to tell Kamau that even if CIA is something, it's a county issue,
yes,
it goes back to the democracy in political parties. So one, if you're coming for a conversation, you need to have clean hands. ODM doesn't have clean hands. Kabado complained about na Kenya. Jubilee, when it was in power, they did what they're accusing Kenya Kwanza of doing. And let me dare say, towards the run-up to the election, that is where Azimio, I think, party coalition, that conversation started. And I remember at the time, Kenya Kwanza was very bitter, trying to argue that you cannot be a member of two parties. That Raila cannot be in ODM, yet in Azimio. You remember there was that conversation?
Yes.
So it goes to say that institutions in this country seem to be controlled by whoever who is in power. So it's incumbent on Kenyans to demand that institutions must be strengthened. Probably at that time, ORPP was working for them. Azimio was not making noise. The time that Azimio One Kenya Coalition Mara Party was passed. And we know that with the Political Parties Act, you can only be a member of one political party. So that was a misnomer in terms of the law. Now, there is someone else in power, Kenya Kwanza. Now Azimio again are accusing. They're forgetting that they were beneficiaries of the ORPP behavior. Now they are accusing the others. What I want these Kenyans, and I want everyone, if you love this country, from the ones in leadership up to us who are followers, we need to demand strengthening of political parties. Because probably Anderito, in as much as you're told she has security of tenure, probably she doesn't feel it. So she has to work for whoever was in power or whoever is in power. Secondly, on the issue of They're saying that Kenya Kwanza is not listening to their demands.
Yes.
We also want to know what are the demands of Kenya Kwanza. I mean, if you're having a conversation, should I listen to your demands? I also have a voice. That is again killing democracy. And that is where I say Azimio are just mere hypocrites. And when we look at this conversation, all of it, I think Mutai Ngugi is not my friend, but I support one of his proposals. He said we do not need a Ferrari presidency. We need a Matatu one. Probably Azimio are feeling we invested, we were supposed to be the president, we didn't win. We want a fallback. A fallback would have been maybe a deputy prime minister and a prime minister. And you remember when the constitution was being crafted, Raila Amolo Odinga himself knew that Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto will go to the ICC. So that is why he was selfish and pushed for an executive presidency, a powerful presidency. No, it's biting him. And he's trying to now destabilize the country.
Also push for BBI.
In my opinion, what I think is Kenyans need to have this conversation. Not to say that we are doing things for Raila Amolo Odinga or Uhuru or Ruto, but if that is what it will take for this country to be stable, let us just bite the bullet. Let them be given those positions. We have some form of peace in this country, because now Kenya Kwanza seems like they cannot even work, because anything they say, they are being, pulled down. Kenyans are not trusting them. There's so much politics. Someone told me that the conversation we're having now, you'd think we're going into the elections in the next 1 month. And we are supposed to be at a point of where there's delivery. Not to say that Kenya Kwanza has been performing. In their angle, from their point, they're saying they're performing. But Kenyans are saying performing is, can I afford food? Do I have a job? So they have also failed in terms of promises. But this issue of Azimio taking us back to politics, trying to give us issues that are not really helping the common mwananchi, is leaving us, the citizens, suffering. And that is why I told Kenyans, and people who are saying they're staunch supporters, even the gaucho who we are being told has been arrested. The day Raila Odinga went to greet Uhuru Kenyatta, even Kalonzo himself did not know, and he was his running mate. So I want Kenyans to start thinking that these politicians are not doing things for you. They're doing things for themselves. Even if Raila now goes and greets Ruto, Gaucho will be forgotten in jail. So Kenyans, why are we giving politicians the clout to think they are more important than us? We are the ones who should be telling them what we want. Azimio people, many of them moved on from the election, and they've started saying that in as much as Baba is calling for maandamano, it is not genuine. Anataka mkate nusu. So is it about the bigger man there, the leader, or it's about the followers of this country? Is it about the voters of this country? So what I'm saying is that everything that they're saying, because now they've said 7 days.
Yes.
If they'll deem the conversation has collapsed,
yes,
it means they're threatening us to go to maandamano. Is it democracy that people lost their property during maandamano? People were killed during Azimio maandamano. That what they're trying to tell us is that, well, we don't care about you, the ordinary people. We just want to make a statement. We want to be given mkate nusu. And that is why they're also bringing this issue of Jubilee, that the government in Ingilia Jubilee. They did the same thing with other political parties. I mentioned Kalembe Ndile. I mentioned Martha Karua's party. Kabando was complaining. I've mentioned ODM. I've mentioned the party I was in. So right now they're crying foul because they're not in power and they're not in control. And that is a lesson to Kenyans. Know that one day you'll be in power and one day you'll not be in power.
Yes.
Do the right thing. If you're moving towards changing this country, do the right thing in a way that you'll never be blamed that you overstepped your mandate.
Pretty much. Kamau, Wakamau. A lot of issues that you got to respond to, but just top on that is that just because they did it, though, doesn't mean that it was right, and it doesn't mean that they don't have to complain right now when it's getting done to them.
My sister, who comes from the Reggae Root Party, who was maybe.
Yes.
Two wrongs don't make right.
As a?
Whatever Jubilee did, whatever Kibaki did, whatever yes, Moi did, or whatever Jomo Kenyatta did, if we go back there, we'll never move forward. What we do, we learn, but we don't repeat. If you want us to talk about Siaya, we'll talk about Siaya, and I'll take you to a small village in my county called Kanyanyaine. The MCA for Kanyanyaine ward said that there is a certain guy who passed on because there was no ambulance in Murang'a Hospital. And that lady, Madam Grace, was summoned yesterday by the County Assembly of Murang'a, trying to intimidate her because she talked or she said the truth on what people deserve.
Yes.
She said there are not enough facilities in Murang'a in terms of health care, so that is why this gentleman passed on.
Yes.
May his soul rest in eternal peace. What am I trying to say? There's a lot of so many things that are happening. be it in ODM, Jubilee, UDA, which we are not being told. So we cannot really get into deep, but we can facilitate the conversation from the national level. That's why we're talking about Kenya Kwanza and Azimio.
Yes.
Because it seems like the story of Naboth didn't get to my sister's heart and mind. I'm going to give you another example. David the King was a very good guy after God's man heart.
Yes.
And when President Ruto was campaigning, there was a conversation, no, David is what? David made a mistake because of the power and prestige, and he sent his people to war and stuff like that. When he was at the top of his palace, he saw a certain lady. This guy coveted towards that, Bathsheba.
Yes.
And what happened after, because of what his desire and the power and the prestige called in and made and sinned with this lady, that reshaped the history of this world even today, the way you're living. The son to Bathsheba and David became king around 17 years. He was 17 years. David, in his firstborn son, I can't remember his name, they never saw eye to eye again because he felt I was to inherit this kingdom. What I'm trying to say is this: we better do things right now so that we decause the river.
Yes.
This called our government and our country called Kenya. We cannot keep on doing wrong because you did wrong. And we have to get things right. Yes. And that goes to the registrar of political party, that she needs to do what is right according to the law and according to what has been from the day. And my sister put a very good point, and she said, by the time you register a party, the hardest part is the constitution of the party and some other nomination skills that are going to go by. So that was deposited in that office then by Jubilee, and what they said need to be followed.
Yes.
If nothing has changed and the letter can be passed to her office and says this is the leaders, she needs to go by the entire process so that she can credit them to be the leaders to lead other people. And then ask, the people you guys represent, what are their desires? Because at the first place, they never joined Kenya Kwanza. Why now are you taking them to Kenya Kwanza, and these people have not given you the mandate to go to Kenya Kwanza? Why is it that there's so much interest in this Jubilee party?
Yes.
I can give you one reason.
Yes.
Mount Kenya region represents part of the conversation in political matters in this country. And when you control this particular station called Mount Kenya region, you control the leadership in terms of politics in Kenya. Now Kenya Kwanza realizes that they are not doing what they said they are doing. They promised all manner of things, and we can see from here and there, the taxes, house levy, non-deliveries that they promised. And they still want to control these people. They want to rule these people. They don't want these people to have a voice. And they understand the only voice that these people will have is through Jubilee Party and their representatives and their leader. And let me tell you, I said in another station that when Uhuru was working for the last 10 years, he never had a chance to explain himself. Because he was working for Kenyans and he never participated in any political conversation with ordinary mwananchi. Now they know, if Uhuru Kenyatta comes back here and start telling Kenya, this is what I know, the entire conversation in Mount Kenya will change. And he can only do that as a party leader or in participation in politics through Jubilee.
All right, let's cut this conversation like this. Now, Justina, I've been seeing you do some bit of notes, but just before you essentially react to what Kamau Wakamau said, that indeed two wrongs don't make it a right. Justina, we can't sit here and say, well, but you did it, so sit back now to not complain. Because essentially democracy as well deserves that we follow the law. And they feel aggrieved by law. That's what they're saying. We don't understand why the current government in place is routing or arresting our party members. We do not want that. And by the way, it's not an accusation. The DP himself has made it clear that we're going to do everything possible to paint the country yellow for 2027. Politics aside, the demands they're making here within these negotiations, we can also sit back and say, well, those are just the Azimio coalition demands. Within that, there are demands that the Kenyans essentially want. One thing that I want you to respond to, are we also going to sit here and pretend that indeed those two factions, as the Kenya Kwanza faction and the Azimio coalition, did not have ideology, manifestos that essentially Kenyans hang on to, which doesn't make sense at all for us to say, you can move to whatever side you want?
Right now, the election we had is when people started taking seriously the manifestos.
Yes.
You know, Kenyans, people's manifestos, like in Mombasa, it used to be Raila Amolo Odinga 1, Raila Amolo Odinga 2. So now is when Kenyans are realizing manifestos make sense. Is when Kenyans are interrogating manifestos. So I can agree that our democracy is growing slowly by slowly. And that is why someone would run to the manifesto of Azimio and say, mulikuwa mmesema you're going to bring textile because mutumba ni nguo za watu wamekufa. You know? Yeah. So Kenyans are questioning.
Yes.
And Sabina Chege, because, and Kanini Kega are the ones who are part of this conversation. I can say they are victims of fate. Why? 2018, Raila Amolo Odinga greeted Uhuru Kenyatta. If by judging them, we would have said then that Raila Amolo Odinga has joined Jubilee. And you see, many of the times Kenyans have been saying, when VAT on fuel was there, Raila was in government. There was the handshake government. So Raila is deemed to carry the burden of the past failures of Jubilee government because he greeted Uhuru Kenyatta. Yes. So Sabina and Kanini, I think in their mind they thought we are going to take cue of what happened in 2018. Unfortunately for them now, they are victims because Kenyans are realizing, no, this handshake thing is not working. If you're in government, stay in government. If you're in opposition, stay in opposition. But let me say that I'm not saying that, no, it's your time to eat the dust or to bite the dust. What I'm saying is we need to strengthen institutions. Yes. Did I say that, Kamau? We need to strengthen institutions. Yes. Number two, in as much as I love my political party, in as much as Kamau, you love Jubilee, call out Jubilee for the failures so that even the people in Jubilee realize, or the leaders in Jubilee realize that, hey, these guys here, our followers know what you're doing. Yes. So even if they mess, ato mwenye ako Kenya Kwanza, call out. If you're seeing things are not going right, call out, so that we can strengthen institutions.
There is a lot in Jubilee to be dealt with as part of management. That's what I want to give you a rebuttal, because we cannot do two battles. Let's have our party back. Then whatever we need to do to clean and increase in membership and say this is what our course is, we will do when we're in the house.
Do you agree with that, Justina, that you can't have two battles? You have the party back.
What I agree is that he agrees that there are so many issues. And I'm happy that is part of calling out because you're going to strengthen the party. Exactly. That is the conversation we want. And that's why we held the NDC. And that is why I'm saying, trying to tell us that the people's desire is that Uhuru Kenyatta does not retire. It goes back to what was the constitution deposited at the ORPP. Kenyans join political parties because they think there's money, because they think there's A, B, and C. Maybe even those people you're saying that their desire is Uhuru Kenyatta do not know what the constitution is saying. We want even the ORPP to come and clear herself and say, people, the constitution of Jubilee that was deposited here says this, that NEC is larger than NDC. That way she can try and clear her name from looking like she is meddling with the affairs of Jubilee. So even the people we hear that people who desire Uhuru Kenyatta, do they even know what the constitution says? That is my question. So ORPP, I know you've been told so much, you've been told to resign. Kindly step out and speak to us, the country, and make yourself, let us know that your name is clear. Even if ODM and Azimio will throw you out, go away realizing that your hands are clean. Isaac Hassan was pushed out of office with this commission, and he's now writing a book. Right now is when he's writing a book to tell us we were grieved, we were not happy. When he said he called Raila Amolo Odinga just for coffee. Raila Odinga had moved on. He didn't even care what happened to Akina Isaac Hassan. So Anderetu, don't fall into the trap of Isaac Hassan. Come out and tell Kenyans this is your stand. Because Azimio has been known to be intimidating people. If they don't like you, if they feel you're not on their side, they try and intimidate you. They try and make you feel like you're not, like you don't deserve to be there. So Anderetu, my call to you, come out and tell Kenyans what is where you stand. Is it within the law? Have you been used by Kenya Kwanza government? Have you been used by Azimio? So that Kenyans can realize that institutions are being strengthened in this country.
But when we, just before, come on, just jump in place. When we say that Kenyans need to call out these political parties,
part of it is you've seen these Azimio leaders walking to tell Kenyans, we as Kenyans, this is what we want. If you're not going to let Jubilee go, we are going back to the streets. if you don't let the cost of living go down, we Kenyans...
Will you call the NDC delegates who appeared for that particular meeting the feel of Kenyans? Or the
now,
feel
the
of
conversation has changed. And people now are starting to talk. Because of that NDC, there is a vast conversation about what country do we have called Kenya. And when they see their leader coming out to give a press on this is what we want, cost of living, leave alone democracy, let it go wherever it wants to go, because we've got our mind of our own. And that is what my sister is saying, that let Kenya come out and say. And that starts by their leaders expressing and saying, this is what this Kenya Kwanza government is doing. This is what is trying to kill institution. We have seen in this, it is in the paper today, that when the president was in Isiolo, he wanted to do away with NLC. And there's a Kenya Land Alliance, something they've said, don't meddle with the constitution. But if it starts by just taking a party and having it by yourself, other institutions will be swallowed, the parliament won't have control, and the executive will be given orders to do. What do we want to do? We want a country that has democracy flourish. We want a country that has many parties, because that people went out and many people died because of this issue. Now, if Kenya Kwanza is genuine in ruling and getting control and governing Kenyans, they should be, like he said, they should not miss in communication. Andy Rito, our honorable registrar, is caught in between there. And you've taken a bit to talk about Isaac Hassan.
Come on, as you finalize.
Yes, Isaac Hassan became a victim of a system. Andy Rito is a victim now and in a corner, and when the time comes, she will be discarded like she never existed, because these political giants, all they care, like my sister is saying, is about their process, and what got them there, they forget. And that is the culture we need to kill as Kenyans and individual. And if Kenya Kwanza continue taking parties, institutions by themselves as they wish, that culture is going to spread down to other common wananchi. Why do I say so? If a government can take your commodity, your money, your land, and shows it is the right way, you're going to even go and take your brother's land, your brother's wife, your brother's school, and all institutions. So we need to cultivate a good culture which is based on truth, honest, and fidelity to the law.
Pretty much. Oof, I wish I had more time on this. Just then somebody's killing us. We just gotta get out of the studio now. Just one, please. 15 seconds, please. In fact, after you speak, I won't speak.
Okay. I'm telling the people about Kenya. In course, we have so many parties. Western, we have so many parties. You have a right to choose whatever party you want to go to. You should be Jubilee or Kenya Kwanza. Number 2, cost of living. Cost of living, I have taken a petition to the National Assembly to lower the cost of living by decriminalizing industrial hemp, which will be a raw material. So Azimio, if they're fighting cost of living, they should come with ideas, not mandamano. Thank you.
Guys, I wish we had more time. There's just a lot that we want to talk about this morning. But for now, we take a tiny breather right here on the Morning Drift. Ian Ketani comes back, but I'll be later on also as well in that conversation. I'll be telling you exactly what that is. Good morning.
Hey darling, are we still on for a coffee date?
I'm waiting for you to come and pick me up.
I should be able